You know, some people come at me, they see my flannel, they see my cardigans, they see my little beanies, and they're like, hey, aren't you a punk rock fan? Why don't you look very punk rock, you know? And I'm thinking, you know what? Fair enough. That is a good question. I don't look punk enough. I need to do a better job of looking like I listen to a genre of music. So today, I thought that we would be doing some research together. I would figure this out. I need to have punk fashion explained to me so that other people outside, strangers, can see that I am a punk rock aficionado, that I am a rock and roll enjoyer of the lowest class. You know what I mean? People need to see that before they even get to know me. So right away, I need a tutorial. I need to be learnt real quick. So great thing that the internet is as big as it is. So I found somebody that is going to teach me, that is going to teach you all about punk fashion, because Lord knows we need it. Hey, how's it going? I am the internet's most ruthless gatekeeper and the planet's most entertaining human being. I am the satirical miracle. My name is Dan Frampton, and today we have a great video in store for you. It is a big one. It is a bad one. It is a brutal one, because we need to face some harsh realities, some truths out there. So before we do that, you're gonna do me the biggest favor in the world, the hugest solid ever. You're gonna like this video and subscribe. Let's get this rolling. So the channel that is gonna teach us all about punk fashion is Coolia, which is also a name of a cheese, is what I learned by Googling it. You know, they say that these channels out here, they don't do enough research, but I did research by accidentally typing Coolia into Google rather than YouTube, and I learned that it was a cheese today, okay? I wouldn't have learned that if I didn't mistakenly use the wrong search engine, and that's what we call research over here in the Frampton facilities. But I didn't do enough research to figure out exactly how to pronounce it. I don't know if it's Coolia or Coolie or Coolea. I'm not exactly sure how it's supposed to be said or pronounced or whatever, but there it is. It's the name of a channel. It's the name of also a cheese. But if you like the channel version of it, you should go subscribe to them. If you're into like the content on this channel, like punk rock and that kind of related stuff, then you should definitely check them out. And if you know my channel, there's a huge chance you already know their channel. Much bigger than I am. Much more clout and fame over there on the Coolia channel than here on the Dan Frampton channel. And that is something we're working on changing, because we're going to be doing beefy uploads multiple times a day kind of thing. So we might be seeing different kinds of content here on the channel, because we got to get that watch time up. We got to get those clicks through the roof, so then things look good here on the channel. Boy needs to smoke and boy needs to eat, okay? But before we learn about what Coolia is going to tell us all about punk fashion, what is wrong with my punk fashion? Punks don't wear glasses. Glasses are for dorks, dweebs, and nerds, and punks are not those things, okay? Punks do not wear little toques or little beanies, especially ones of a bright and vibrant color, okay? That is another huge mistake I'm doing. And look at all these primary colors I got going on here. I got the red, I got the blue, I got the yellow. That can't be very punk. You know what I mean? So I must be able to learn some stuff here. Gotta take some notes. And if you guys have any tips or tricks you want to teach me, please leave them down there in the comments. All right, Coolia, Coolie, what am I doing wrong?
It's likely at some point you've been walking down the street and you see some dudes who look like this. If you're incredibly unlucky, you might even see somebody who looks like this.
Oh my god, alright, so already I'm seeing some things that I am dropping the ball on. No spikes of the Liberty kind, or of the Mohawk kind, or of the studded jacket kind. No spikes whatsoever. I'm not doing any of the piercings on the face. Oh man, I'm missing the mark already so much, and I'm only 6 seconds into this video.
The word that probably immediately came to mind is punk, as many of these styles are directly linked and inspired by the genre of punk. But why did this happen? How did a sequence of distorted power chords lead to one of the most influential, distinct, and polarizing styles of fashion? In order to find that out, we first need to look towards the origins of the genre and how the clothing linked to the attitude and themes of the genre at the time. If we go back...
Okay, so we gotta go all the way back to the origins of the genre to see what these clothing choices really mean politically, what they mean aesthetically, and where they came from the movement perspective, you know what? I'm okay with that, because I need to know my history. I need to know all of that sort of stuff, because I don't want to be walking around looking like a punk and then having people being like, hey, name 3 Crash songs. I need to be able to do that.
Back to the early 1970s, punk style didn't really even exist. Yeah, that's right, everyone was dressing like this. The world was full of male manipulators. Punk rock would blast onto the UK music scene in the mid-70s and was originally an intentional rebuttal of many of the themes found in the mainstream, whether it be music or just culture as a whole.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay, all right. So it busted onto the scenes in the mid 70s. Before that, there wasn't that much punk rock looking stuff, but because punk rock happened, now people are looking like this out here with their jackets and their ripped shirts and their chains and their mohawks and their collars of all sorts of different variety. You know what I mean? Is this what I need to look like in order to be perceived as a punk rocker?
Leading to the early punk fashion being entirely based around anti-establishment due to the,
It's entirely based, I'll tell you that much for sure.
Say, life choices of individuals within the subculture. They didn't have that much money, with many of the early clothes being refashioned and redesigned items of clothing, often bought from charity shops or just found for free.
Okay, so judging by that metric, I'm as punk as fuck. I don't think I paid much more than $5 for everything that I'm wearing right now. This hat here is at least 10 years old that I got for free doing a charity walk for the work that I worked for at the time. All right, this flannel definitely repurposed, maybe hand-me-down, maybe passed down through generations or whatever. I can't even tell you the origins of this flannel. And here you see this Champion shirt. This is the newest item that I have on my entire fit right now, and I got this maybe 2 years ago at Value Village for $5. And the pants that I have on, I'm not going to get up and show them to you, but they're sweatpants that I got for free as a gift. So judging by this metric, you're looking at one of the most punk rock guys that has ever walked the face of the earth.
By refashioned, I basically just mean cut up and crudely reconstructed in a way that was bound to attract more attention, although most of the attention was negative. Although distressed clothing is very popular today,
Okay, I didn't do any of that. I didn't do any cutting or distressing on purpose, All the cutting and distress that's going on my clothes is happening naturally because they're like over a decade old. Punk!
it was incredibly shocking during the mid-70s. Fabric had to be in perfect condition and as clean as possible to be seen as fashionable. This basically went out the window with punk, with every item of clothing being filthy and with enough holes to show off as much unwashed skin as possible.
Alright, so we want dirt. We want grime. Because in the 70s, everything was shiny. Everything was pristine. Everything was polished. And in order to be punk rock, you needed to have grime on top of grime. You needed to cut through all this fabric in order to show the grime underneath the grime. Okay, I'm starting to see what's going on here. We need filth. We need slices. We need dices. It needs to be an Italian-style New York pizzeria up in here with all the slicing and dicing going down.
Of course, the DIY style didn't just extend to fabric draped over the body. Jewellery was crudely designed, with items of jewellery being designed with safety pins, chains, pieces of tattered fabric, padlocks and razor blades.
Okay, we need to make some jewelry over here with found items around the house. Okay, he said that what safety pins? I got like 6 or 7 safety pins right here. I didn't need to go that far to get safety pins, okay? Punk rock. I don't need that much more tutorial, I don't think. I think I'm learning enough. I think I got it all right here. No, I need to learn more.
Essentially, if you want to recreate that style today, you can either rummage through your dad's tool shed or pay thousands of pounds for some overly pretentious fashion brand to do it for you.
Or just knock on the door of the most ruthless gatekeeper, Dan Frampton. He'll give you all the safety pins you need if you only need 5 or 6. Because I got 5 or 6 safety pins right here. Because I am a punk rock legend.
Overuse of rusty metal didn't end there though. Of course, these motherfuckers were sticking metal right through their skin, and although the 60s allowed for a lot of creative expression, fashion...
I never stuck any metal through my skin though, never had any piercings, okay? Maybe that might be something that I need to change. What would be the piercing that you think that a guy like me, the most ruthless gatekeeper, the most entertaining human being on this planet, what kind of piercing would that person get? Would it be a septum ring? Would it be a lip ring? Would it be an eyebrow ring? Would it be a belly button ring? I'm not exactly sure, but I think if I were to get a piercing, if I were to shove some metal through my face somewhere whatsoever, I think it would be a septum ring, but I wouldn't do anything crazy like try to like stretch it out or anything or do, like gauge it to like anything crazy, but it might be septums and ears that I still would get pierced. I'm gonna wait until my midlife crisis really cranks into overdrive, and then I'm gonna start going crazy.
Wise, piercings were still only really accepted within the earlobe. This went out the window during the original punk boom, with pieces of metal being stuck wherever there was space, with eyebrows, cheeks, noses and lips being common places.
All of those places. The punk boom allowed for metal to be put inside of places that metal normally didn't go, okay? Before punk rock, metal only went into a couple different places, and now that punk rock is the thing, if you can find skin, just shove some metal into it and you'll be fine.
Piercings also followed the more DIY approach, with many of the styles including the previously mentioned safety pins, razors, chains, or just all three at the same time. Might as well. Many individuals within the scene saw specifically the use of facial piercings as a way to offend anybody who actually had a job. Although this was probably enough to really piss off any passers-by at the time, it apparently wasn't enough for the punks of the mid-70s, with many individuals choosing to wear gear with black leather, studs, leg straps, and being...
Okay, so I'm learning from that little bit of diatribe that we got over here that I need to be doing a better job offending people with how I'm dressing. I need to go out there and not only make a statement about my individuality, I don't need to express myself, but the myself I got to express is one that makes you uncomfortable, I guess. That is the whole point of punk. I dress like this to make you feel uncomfortable. My whole swag is based on your perception of stuff. Okay, got it. Thanks, punks.
Being common attributes of the clothing. This style influenced Vivienne Westwood and Malcolm McLaren, who would design clothes based on some of the styling seen beforehand.
Who? Who's Malcolm McLaren and Vivienne Westwood? Did they have this boutique in London that birthed the Sex Pistols by chance? So I need to be an originator of punk rock in order to be punk rock. Okay, got it.
McLaren would begin managing the Sex Pistols, leading to the band wearing some of the clothes designed by the couple, which not only pushed the popularity of Westwood's designs, but the entire subculture of fashion as a whole.
Okay, that is the most important part of punk subculture that I think people don't remember, and I think people are overlooking times a million, okay? The punk aesthetic is a fashion aesthetic created by designers in a boutique and then put onto a band that was assembled by a manager who managed the New York Dolls, okay? This is as fabricated and as preconceived as you could possibly get, okay? There's no DIY ethic here. There's none of that. This is bougie, fancy fashion stuff.
The fashion boutique owned by the couple, most famously known as although had multiple different names, would become a meeting point for
this Coolia guy, man, he does a lot of censoring on his goddamn motherfucking channel over here when it's supposed to be about fucking punk rock. Don't like all that censoring going on there, all those yellow Dolan signs we're getting. He's even censoring out the middle finger, the word sex. That's some bullshit, brother.
For many of punk's most notorious bands, the clothing sold at was intentionally abrasive, focusing mainly on style pieces, with the use of far too much rubber for anybody to actually be comfortable with them.
Like, there were so many words censored in that last sentence, I don't even know what the hell he's talking about. There was so much what, they used what inside of their what, and it was all what. They were afraid of rubber, so they wore what. I don't understand what's going on here.
The look of the store reflected this as well, with rubber curtains and walls covered in chicken wire, as well as graffiti inspired by the Scum Manifesto. Other famous clothing sold within that didn't feature a disgusting amount of rubber include deliberately offensive t-shirts with symbols I cannot show on YouTube, but you can probably guess.
Yeah, you can't really show those symbols at all, and I would censor that sort of stuff on my channel as well. So I'm glad that he's gone out there and done all that extra work to get those sort of like hate symbols out of there. But that's the kind of thing that Vivienne Westwood was so famous for doing. Taking things that were known to be extremely offensive, taking things that were symbols of hate all around the world and trying to reappropriate them in a way that, yes, would offend you, but also suited their aesthetic, okay?
Clothing fashioned with safety pins and loose-knit jumpers that are often worn by people who look like this nowadays. Westwood's clothing around this time was deliberately created to cause a reaction and instigate political change, and as she saw many of punk's adoptees become uninterested with the political direction, she ditched the aesthetic and started making necklaces exclusively for over-explaining male manipulators and chavs. One thing I haven't
That is kind of true, but I was being a little bit dismissive as it being like a boutique and like a bunch of fashion bougie people doing bougie stuff. They were artists and they did have like an artistic purpose, or at least that's how they were justifying it within themselves. But when you walk through London and you see like a boutique like that and you walk into it, you just smell the elitist pretension through every single crack in the wall.
I haven't touched on yet is this absolutely diabolical trim. You may have many questions, most importantly why and how. The answer to the latter is a combination of sugar solutions, gelatine, PVA glue, as well as hairspray and gel to achieve the sheer height, with the colour involving cheap food dyes and bleach.
You could do all that, okay? You could go out there and you could find all the creative ways to make your mohawks stick up or whatever. But real ones know you use shellac and varnish. Real woodworking chemicals.
This became popular as actually due to an inspiration of McLaren's. Richard Hell would be one of the first people to spike his hair and utilise safety pins within fashion. If you think of the two most iconic hairstyles in punk, the first would probably be the aforementioned spiky mess, with the second barely even being a haircut, the head bold variety of punk. Although this was done occasionally in the 70s, mainly as a way to look more intimidating, it really came into its own as the 80s rolled around and punk would diverge into a few different subgenres.
Oh, so I can just do this and just like look so punk rock, he's saying. He's like, you could have like the biggest, spikiest thing going on, or you could just go bald to look intimidating. I don't know if looking bald, for me anyway, looks intimidating. So I'm just gonna go put this toque back on here real quick and continue on learning about the different fashions that we got going on here.
To America and explore the look of hardcore, let's quickly cover the Oi or street punk subgenre that would develop
Oi, street punk, posiecore, other type genres for bald people.
In the late 70s, Oi emerged as a response to the perceived commercialization of punk and often involved working class rebellion. The fashion of Oi often included elements of the punk clothing beforehand, although fused the style with more traditional UK skinhead style, meaning tight rolled up paint splattered jeans, braces, Doc Martens, and of course that all too familiar shiny bald head. Interestingly enough, there was actually a brand of Oi that began to combine the style with the Clockwork Orange, essentially just cosplay with extra steps. Let's take that trip to America to visit the developing hardcore scene and what these cheeky little were choosing to drape over their body.
Okay, so it looks like I'm halfway to a street punk type thing. It looks like I do need to ditch the glasses though. I'm good with the skinny jeans. I just gotta roll them up a little bit and throw some paint on them. I have some Doc Martens. I'm never gonna wear the suspenders though. But it looks like I could pull off a completely amazing punk rock look that fits everybody's standard with what I have in my house not that far away. I just gotta ditch the flannel and the primary colors apparently.
Surprisingly, it was nowhere near as provocative and weird as the styles beforehand. I know you Americans enjoy taking things a little bit too far, but in this case it was actually a lot more toned down.
Oh yeah, they toned it way down. This was as working class as you can get. This wasn't going crazy with anything. This was just being like, all right, we got our pants, we got our hairstyle, very minimalist, very working class, and it's done.
Style was a lot more functional, as opposed to an abundance of metal and clothes that form no actual function, comfort or warmth wise.
Yeah, in other words, this wasn't an art piece.
Simplified it, with a more casual style of dress being employed. The emphasis on comfort allowed individuals within the scene to dance in the energetic live shows, without risk of a piercing falling out or an overly hair-gelled spike cuddling somebody at the show. Punk
Exactly, man. You can go out there, be comfy, still express yourself in a way that makes you look like you listen to the genre that you're going to the show for, but now you're comfortable. Now you're rocking and rolling. Now you're swaying back and forth and having a good time and not worrying about like jamming a spike down someone's throat or whatever, which happened to me at my very first show, okay? I went into the mosh pit. I was way too little. I shouldn't have been inside of that kind of mosh pit at that age, but I sauntered in thinking, oh, you know what? This is going to be a fun time. No big deal. Blah-pa! Right to the face. Big old spike. Blood everywhere. Not fun.
It was beginning to become over-commercialized, with many of the fashion developments becoming overly pretentious. This means the more laid-back approach of just a t-shirt, cargo trousers or baggy jeans, and either boots or just regular trainers was actually still a form of rebellion against the mainstream of the genre. A hardcore kid just looked like a typical teenager working at a supermarket or a petrol station. This even extended to the artists, with Henry Rollins of Black Flag.
But that in itself, like he just said, was rebelling against like the punk aesthetic. It's like, oh, you're gonna go out there with all these safety pins and all these spikes. How about I show up in sweatpants instead? So maybe we got a punk rocker right here without having to do too much whatsoever. Didn't spend more than $1 on my clothing. Got all these safety pins, I'm bald, I'm comfortable, I listen to aggressive music. This right here, this is what a punk rocker looks like.
Exclaiming that fashion was just a distraction from the music and movement. Just make sure you cover your body with really tattoos and you'll be fine. Although much of the fashion was toned down, you still got some freakish behaviour with bands like Misfits, inspiring the Devi lock, which looks like this, and probably resulted in at least...
Did he just call that the Devi lock? I've never heard that referred to as the Devi lock before. That is the devil lock if I've ever seen a devil lock in my whole entire life, okay?
one dead polar bear per hairspray session. Misfits specifically inspired the horror punk and death rock styles, which kind of combines punk and goth fashion. Horror punks wear
It kind of combines those. It absolutely 100% combines those.
predominantly black alongside fishnets, corsets, and a heavy use of makeup.
That's what I want to do, man. I want some corsets. I need some heavy black makeup. I need to, like, get some hair stuff going somewhere. If I could get like this emo goth thing going in my 40s, oh my god, I would be like the coolest dude going, because that sort of stuff is like popular right now, right? So if I were to do the fishnet kind of black eyeliner, snake bite type aesthetic, ooh, I think I could pull that off.
They also invented the patented Death Hawk. Let's take
It does seem like a lot of work though, now that I'm thinking about it.
another quick trip back to the UK so we can have a look at our special little crusties. That's right, crust punk, probably the stinkiest style yet.
Okay, crust punk. Now I think crust punk is the second kind of aesthetic that comes to mind when people think of that punk rock look. First would be like that 70s style with all the safety pins and the spikes and all that sort of stuff. But most people think of crusties when they think of punk rock.
Crust punk would emerge out of the UK in the late 70s, with bands like Disorder, Lunatic Fringe and Amebix developing their own take on the punk style, with a more dishevelled DIY look that essentially just originated from many of the bands squatting and living in poverty.
Exactly. It started off like that artistic expression, but these were poor kids just squatting. So they just like kept the product in their hair and they kept wearing the same clothes. They just like kept sleeping in the same spots over and over again and just ended up stinking worse than ever. And then crust punk was a thing. It's the natural evolution.
Surely no rich white kids from LA will adopt this look, surely not. Crusty fashion includes functional trousers such as workwear or army cargos, ripped t-shirts and hoodies that are sewn back together with cheap materials such as dental floss, cheap handmade jewellery, and the most important bit, make sure whatever you do, you never shower or wash any article of clothing.
Okay, I don't think the crust punk genre of look is gonna be for me, okay? Maybe if I take some elements of hardcore, take some elements of goth and emo, take some elements from oi and street punk, maybe we could come up with something. But I got to try to stay away the best I can from whatever the hell this is.
The lack of showers led to dreadlocks being a commonly seen thing. As punk continued to meld itself with other subgenres, so did fashion. Psychobilly would introduce a 1950s greaser fashion into the mix, dance punk would be very colourful and luminescent, and ska punk would include checkerboard patterns, suits, and looking very overly stupid.
Checkerboard patterns and looking overly stupid? Okay, maybe I'm a ska guy, because I definitely look overly stupid and have like obnoxious colors going on here. Okay, maybe we take a little bit of ska, a little bit of hardcore, a little bit of oi, a little bit of egg punk. Yeah, we got something here.
This is around the time punk began to become poppier, creating, you guessed it, pop punk. This was by far the most successful incarnation of punk if you look at mainstream attention and sales as opposed to quality. This was reflected in the widespread appeal of a lot of the clothing trends involved.
I have all these items of clothing that he's about to name.
Pop punk style became intrinsically linked with a lot of the elements that were popular at the time, with the heavy use of disgusting skin-tight jeans,
Got those.
overly colourful hair, and
Used to do that when I had hair. Don't do the spikes anymore, but I definitely had a phase.
studs, just studs everywhere. Doesn't matter where it is, you just put a stud on it. And that brings us to the present day, where many of the elements described are being used.
Introducing Aaron Miklo, putting it all together for you in 2024.
Across the board in fashion. The early UK punk style has been sold for thousands of pounds by high-end fashion brands. Punk has become
Oh, Vivienne Westwood, it's come full circle.
a key element in many styles today. It's rare you'll see a kid walking down the street in an item that hasn't been inspired by punk at some point. Goth girl, boom, punk. Zoomer and Fortnite t-shirt and cargo shorts, obviously punk. This dude,
Obviously punk. Punk has influenced every single form of fashion, okay? That's why you look at this guy over here, you're like, this guy over here, this Dan Frampton, this internet's most ruthless gatekeeper, he is definitely the planet's most entertaining human being, and he looks like the most punk rock guy in the world. That is the only train of thought that makes sense after watching this video. I don't have anything to do. I don't have any learning to do. I don't have any notes to take. I've just reaffirmed that I am the most punk rock looking guy that has ever existed.
You can literally just splatter paint on trousers yourself.
All right, Kulia, we did it. We got there. I turned your 8-minute video into an over 20-minute video. How do you like that? That's how we do reaction videos over here on the Frampton channel, okay? That was transformative. That was fair use, okay? Thank you so much. This guy's channel is great. I'll leave a link in the description if I remember. I am a lazy reaction channel that just does slop, remember? So there's a good chance that I will forget about leaving that link down there, and I'll probably just move on to the next video like the slop content creator that I am. But thank you so much for kicking back with me and enjoying this. This was a good time. If you're still here, I know that you've liked the video and subscribed already. Okay, bye.